Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology with another installment to our series of tutorials for JD 138. Following up on our last tutorial, this tutorial will be dealing with using simple extrusions and revolves for designing rings. Let's start with extrusions. Using these two basic curves, if it's a planar curve, which this is, especially if it's two closed planar curves, Rhino will be able to figure out which way to extrude. Okay? However, normally Rhino needs to extrude perpendicular to the current C-plane. So normally if I tried to extrude right now, it would extrude straight up and down. Okay? An example would be if I explode this and I have a simple straight line. If I try and extrude that and I want it to come the same direction I just extruded these, it's not going to work. It's going to extrude it perpendicular to the C-plane. That's Rhino's normal habit. So, it's a worthwhile thing that whenever you're going to do an extrusion, to consider what C-plane you want it perpendicular to. In this case, it would be the front. I want it to go both sides, and I want it to be solid, so it builds caps on the end. And I want it to have history attached. And make a ring as wide as you think you might want it. The widest you think you might want it. Okay. Having history attached, we can now go in and we can play with these curves. If I wanted more of a tapered bottom, for example, I could move this up 4/10 of a millimeter. And the extrusion will follow if I want more of a dome ring involved. I can rebuild this. Now let's say 12/4. Turn on my points. We have the same thing as before. We have an orientation of points that I'm not really thrilled with. So I'm going to create that same, as I've shown you before, a straight line as reference geometry from the center, both sides, pulling straight up with ortho, with Shift key. I am going to adjust my curve seam. Just make sure it's where I want it. It is. Okay. I'm going to rebuild this in a number that I think will give me what I want. Let's say an odd number, let's say 13. Turn on my points and see if I've got my point at the top. I do. Okay, so by using either an odd or even number, by rotating the curve, rebuilding it, changing the curve seam, there are several ways, but if you're going to do curve point editing, it's important that the landscape created by your points gives you what you want. So I would like to have this be taller from the midpoint up, and you will see that my extrusion is matching. Maybe I would like to have more of a broad top. A little more elevation still. And maybe a little broader still. So I'll do a non-uniform scale. You play with yours however you like. The homework just requires that you show me that you've played. experiment it around. That is the point. Say we want to make a taper for this. So we would extrude this curve to the side. Well, as I pointed out before, Rhino always extrudes perpendicular or normal. Yes, another word in 3D modeling. Normal to the, that means perpendicular, straight outward from. Normal to the current C-plane. So if I hit extrude, it's going to want to do it that way. I don't want it that way. I want it coming across the front of the ring, so I need a right C-plane. Going to extrude that straight out. Check the direction, because I'm going to want to use this to cut the stone, the ring. So I want those points pointing towards the ring. Flip, enter. Okay. Going to record history and mirror it across the middle. Having done that, you know what, let's backtrack a little bit. I'm going to record history before I extrude. The other way would work fine, but this gives us a little easier control. Analyze direction. Record history. Record history, solid, difference. So, I selected what I began by, I had it pre-selected and I'm going too fast. Let me slow down. Record history, Boolean difference, select you want to subtract from, enter. Surfaces you want to subtract with, enter. Now, if I take a hold of this rotation arm, and see, unfortunately, history isn't upgrading. I'm having a lot of challenges with unpredictable history. The reason history didn't work is because I flipped the direction of the surface, and the surface that I flipped was a child. It broke history with the parent curve. Okay, that gets to be very tedious. So, that being said, I will record history and mirror. And now I won't be able to. Now see, there's that jump it does. It does that every time I use Gumball on my machine. It may not on yours. But if it does, you can also rotate just using a transform rotate command. And you can click in the middle. You can click at midpoint down the edge of the surface. You can click at the top corner of the surface. Just somewhere predictable. Until you see a taper that you like. Check your direction. Yeah, everything's fine. Solid difference. We'll do it off tab this time. Okay. So, I've done that. Now let's say I want to put a strip of stones around the outside of that ring. So I'm going to offset this curve, the outer shoulder, both sides, go ahead and extrude that. Once again, both sides, solid equals yes. And I don't care how far out it goes. Okay. Got a record history though. Bad day for me doing recording history. Alright, there we go. So now, check the curve seam. Good, it's in a predictable place. Rebuild these curves. 25 seems to keep them pretty much the same. Check the point locations. I like that. And if you look at your geometry, it's updated, it's fine. What I want to do is turn on these points. I'm going to grab this series of points and I'm going to scale them 0, enter. And what I'm looking for as I do this is for this to taper and tuck, blend into the side of the ring, to bite in, because I want this rim of stones to tuck away into the side of the ring. So as I'm watching, it's all tucked in until about right here. If I wanted a little more, I could do the same command. And grab these, do the same command. 0, enter for the starting point. Until I have a transition that I like. And you see that our model has updated. Okay? Turn off my points. If I bring back my original shank, you can see we have a little problem. I want this to be inset from the edge of my ring. Okay? Well, that's kind of a problem for me, because it's too big. What we're going to do is we're going to extract this surface. We're going to go to Solid, Extract Surface. We want it to go to the current layer. The in choice is Input or Current. We want Current, and we want Copy to equal Yes. Click on that surface and hit Enter. And we have borrowed a copy of that surface. We're going to untrim that surface. I'm going to hit Untrim All. Okay. What I want to do is but there are two ways I can do this. Let's do the simple way. I'm going to record history, mirror it over. Then I'm going to move it in. I turned off our insert color and brought back our main ring shank. Move it in a little bit at a time until I get about the distance from the edge that I want. Remembering that this strip is going to kind of fold away. I'm going to analyze the direction. It's pointing the wrong way. Flip it. See if it fixed that one as well. It did. to see if we can get the Boolean difference to work with our history. So record history, solid difference. Record history, Boolean difference. Select what you want to subtract from, the large insert. Select what you want to subtract with. Okay. And there's really no way to access it, so we'll just call that good. And you can see that that strip of stones is offset now predictably from the edge and rises up in a nice way from the shank of the ring. Last thing we could do with this is we could fillet the edge of this to make it nice. Filleting an edge of a solid or two surfaces, you need to have a corner where two surfaces meet. Works best with solids, but it'll also work well with a poly surface that has a good clean corner. Going to do a solid fillet edge. We'd like to know how far this distance is. There's no convenient way to measure that, so we'll do it by eye. Right now it's at 1. That's the default. Okay. That ends up being a little bit too much. Can I go ahead and do the other side? See how much space we had at the bottom? Okay, it looks like at the bottom I could go a little bigger, and at the top I need less. So I'm going to do a variable fillet. So I undid twice to remove the fillets I did. I'm going to fillet this edge. Now the thing with fillets is you have to select the spacing before you actually click on the edge. So I have to begin that again. Before I select anything, I'm going to type in 1.25. Let's make it 1.3. So now when I select what I want, it'll be 1.3. Press enter when done. Select handle you want to adjust. You can actually grab this handle now and adjust it manually. What we want to do is add a handle. We're going to add a handle right up here at the top. We're going to hope that we have a quadrant we can grab. Yes, we do. And we're pretty much done there. We'll hit enter. And now it says press a handle to edit. We can grab this and we can do it visually. Just until we see that that fillet does not reach in and touch our strip of stones. Or we could have typed in a dimension. Either one works. Hit enter. And you can see we get a nice variable fillet. It's crowding here a little bit, but we're going to be blending, so that's fine. Difficulty is that I did not, since it's not a numeric entry, how am I going to get consistency on the other side? I can take the surface off, mirror it over, trim. That's getting very sophisticated and complicated. So instead, I'm going to make sure I do a numeric entry. Keep it at 1.3, add a handle, select what I want, and I remember it being about 0.91. Type in 0.9. Maybe 0.85. See, by using a numeric entry, I can now go to the other side and duplicate it exactly. Repeat the command, select the edge, press enter when done, add a handle, up at the top, enter, select the handle you want to edit, type 0.85, hit enter, and you have a nice consistent fillet from side to side. Okay? So play with this. Do something similar. and explore how you can use extrusions and Boolean differences and extracting a surface, moving things around.